Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special battlefield report. First off, let's dive into Israel's multi-front operations in Lebanon and Gaza. Between the night of October 5th and the morning of October 6th, the first front was in the Dahieh suburbs of Beirut in southern Lebanon, a major stronghold for Hezbollah's weapon depots. The Israeli Air Force conducted precision strikes on these underground storage facilities. Military experts point out that this strike successfully obliterated large weapon caches used by Hezbollah to store ballistic missiles, anti-ship missiles, and long-range rockets, delivering a significant blow to their military capabilities. And meanwhile, in southern Israel, Hamas saw Israel was busy up north and thought it'd be smart to regroup in Jabalia, up in northern Gaza. Yeah, not their best idea. They attempted to regroup their forces in Jabalia, a northern city in the Gaza Strip that's long been one of their key strongholds. To prevent Hamas from making a comeback there, Israel swiftly launched a second front. According to a military analysis report, on the night of October 5th, Israeli airstrikes and artillery bombardments continuously targeted military facilities in Jabalia. Following this, the Israeli 162nd Division's armored brigades executed a ground encirclement, completely sealing off the outskirts of Jabalia. Speaking of the 162nd Division, it's one of the most elite armored units in the Israel Defense Forces, with a history dating back to the early days of Israel's founding. They've been pivotal in multiple key battles throughout Israel's wars, earning numerous military accolades. This time, the division's 401st and 460th Armored Brigades, equipped with Israel's homegrown Merkava main battle tanks, spearheaded the ground operations. According to evaluations by Israeli Defense from October 5th to 6th, the IDF and the Israel Security Agency jointly eliminated two significant Hamas leaders in southern Lebanon. Mohammed Hussein Ali al-Mahmoud, the guy in charge of keeping Hamas's weapons moving around Lebanon, and Salah Naif Ali, the mastermind behind countless attacks on Israel in the West Bank over the years. Thanks to some top-notch intel, Israel knew exactly where to find them. On October 6, Israeli media revealed that Hamas leader Yassin Sinwar might be hiding among hostages and has stopped using phones for months, relying solely on pen and paper to issue orders. Thinking this will shield him from further Israeli strikes, the Israeli side has made it clear that their operations against terrorists will continue unabated, regardless of such tactics. Now, buzz is building that Israel has slated an attack on Iran for October 7th. On October 6th, Israel's Minister of Defense Minister couldn't help but drop some hints, suggesting Iran might soon follow in the footsteps of Gaza and Beirut with command centers, missile bases, and weapon depots all lined up on a list. They're gearing up to use a combination of comprehensive military blockades and heavy assaults to bring Iran to its knees. Iran, of course, isn't taking this lightly. The Revolutionary Guard basically said, mess with us and we'll hit back so hard, you'll rethink your life choices. They've even threatened that their counterattacks will continuously escalate. But let's take a look at their situation. Iran's currency is in free fall, plummeting from 590,000 rials to the dollar to 630,000 rials in just 2 weeks. People are scrambling to buy gold. Domestically, there's growing opposition to the government stance on Israel, with many feeling this war isn't in Iran's best interest. Militarily, Iran lacks a formidable air force. While they have a significant number of missiles, their accuracy is questionable, and there's even a 5% chance they'll self-destruct on the launch pad. Iran's counterattack? Yeah, let's just say, don't hold your breath. According to reports from U.S. defense experts, Israel's initial strikes are targeting 10 Iranian cities, especially Tehran. Key targets include the Revolutionary Guard headquarters, missile bases, rocket launch centers, and nuclear development facilities. The U.S.-Israel alliance has also made it clear that if Iran dares to retaliate, the situation could escalate rapidly, potentially involving the most severe measures. Plans to neutralize nuclear capabilities, demilitarize, and dismantle covert operations have been meticulously laid out for Iran. The upcoming showdown boils down to who moves faster, who strikes harder, and who can incapacitate the other first. Israel's airstrike strategy is impressively precise. The central route cuts through Jordan and Iraq straight to Tehran. The southern route flies over Saudi airspace, targeting Iran's southwestern strongholds, and the northern route bypasses Syria's air defense systems, striking Iran's secret facilities from Kurdish-controlled areas. This well-orchestrated, three-pronged air assault isn't a spur-of-the-moment plan. The U.S. has been strategically positioning forces in the Middle East for over half a year. Attacking Iran is a tougher nut to crack than NATO's bombing of Yugoslavia back in the day. Tehran alone has 20,000 targets waiting to be hit. Yugoslavia held out for 50 days back then. Although NATO's bombing capabilities have significantly advanced over the past 2 decades, Iran might still withstand the pressure for a while, but ultimately evading defeat seems unlikely. This situation tests the U.S.-Israel alliance's ability to conduct continuous round-the-clock bombardments to dismantle Iran's military capabilities. From takeoff to strike to assessment, the entire cycle must be flawless. These are the critical points to watch. In fact, the operational plans for striking Iran were simulated countless times on supercomputers by the US and Israel over a year ago. Every target, the type of bomb to be used, inventory checks, all meticulously planned. The necessary weapons have been produced, tested, and shipped to Middle Eastern military bases over the past few months, just waiting for the go-ahead. So, what's the big deal here? No question, it's all about wiping Iran's nukes off the map once and for all. Since the 1979 Iranian Revolution, the U.S. has avoided direct confrontations with Iran, opting instead for proxy wars. Why? Because Iran had backing from the Soviet Union and later Russia, bolstered by nuclear weapons. But now the U.S. and Israel seem confident, perhaps having a silver bullet to neutralize Iran's nuclear threat once and for all. Looking back, ever since the U.S. dropped 2 atomic bombs on Japan during World War II, nuclear weapons have been a haunting presence in global affairs. The Soviet Union quickly acquired the technology, which eventually spread to regimes like China, Iran, and North Korea, each building their own nuclear shields. But don't think the U.S. has been idle. For nearly 80 years, the U.S. has been preparing for this, conducting over 1,000 nuclear tests in Nevada's military bases with one goal: to find a way to neutralize adversaries' nuclear capability or to eliminate these global threats. The specifics are, of course, top secret. Even former President Trump recently hinted, strike first, talk later. Such boldness likely isn't without some solid intel. Clearly, the U.S. and Israel feel they have the technological breakthroughs and strategic plans over years to back up their tough stance. Now, could China step in to support Iran? According to China analysts, that's highly unlikely. While they might loudly proclaim down with imperialism, when it comes to real action, they tend to step back. Leadership in Beijing knows full well that provoking the U.S. and Israel could lead to dire consequences. Iran's leadership may have been led on with empty promises, but when push comes to shove, who will actually stick their necks out? China might flex its muscles against smaller neighboring countries, but facing a formidable alliance like the U.S. and Israel, they'll likely retreat as far as they can. The only card they might play is boasting about their vast territory and resilience. But if the U.S. and Israel can penetrate Iran's defenses and eliminate its nuclear facilities, China might have to seriously reconsider its own position. This conflict isn't just a crisis for Iran, it's a wake-up call for others. The strategies that worked in the past might not hold up under new circumstances. If denuclearization efforts succeed in Iran, other nations might start to sweat, pondering their own futures. After discussing Israel's plans regarding Iran, let's turn our attention to the Russia-Ukraine battlefield. According to the Washington Post, the Biden administration remains cautious about providing aid to Ukraine. Analysts suggest this might be tied to domestic electoral pressures. However, experts note that the Defeat Russia Summit in Ramstein is still scheduled for October 12th. Biden's cautious approach might just be a pre-election stance. Once the November election results are in, he may feel less constrained. Recently, former NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg admitted in an interview with Financial Times something many had suspected. And when Russia launched its full-scale invasion in 2022, numerous high-level policymakers doubted Ukraine's ability to hold off Russia. Stoltenberg also pointed out that since February 2022, Putin's so-called red lines have been meaningless. NATO has crossed them repeatedly without significant repercussions. What does this tell us? With mainstream media outlets emphasizing that current aid isn't sufficient and that more support should be extended to Ukraine, it's evident that there's a push to reassess and possibly increase assistance. So what's the story behind Ukraine's withdrawal from its last stronghold in Vuhledar? They've been gradually pulling back for weeks, completing the withdrawal only after October began. But Russia quickly labeled this a strategic victory, touting it loudly. But in reality, there's nothing particularly special about this location. Before the war, Vuhledar was just a small town of about 15,000 residents, and it was evacuated years ago. Then it doesn't house any military industries, unlike places like Pokrovsk. It's neither a railway hub nor a strategic transit point. In this war, Vuhledar's significance was mainly as a defensive stronghold, where Ukrainian forces held firm for 2 years. Why did Russia choose to attack here? Because advancing on Pokrovsk proved too challenging. In early August, they nearly took it, but failed, facing dwindling options and eager to present Putin with a victory than more attainable Vuhledar. Throughout the summer into autumn, Russian forces in Donbass have advanced at a snail's pace, suffering heavy casualties. Over the past 3 weeks, their progress has been painfully slow, with a maximum advance of just 5 kilometers, averaging about 250 meters per day. Putin seems unfazed by the mounting casualties, pushing his troops to continue their advance. His aim is to seize as much territory as possible before the U.S. elections, hoping that if a favorable administration comes into power and freezes the conflict, these territories will become his spoils, allowing him to maintain his grip on power. But as we all know, things often don't go as planned. That's all for today's special report. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to stay updated with our coverage. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.